You can move it.
Have you been removing them, like?
No, but I can remove one. I've not removed the other ones, but I can remove him. Because
You can put me to your docket. How much you put one for one song?
I can't hear you. Not illegal to watch somebody's live stream, but it is in fact illegal to record it without their prior knowledge or permission.
Daniel just makes a lot of goes up.
Yes.
My left ear, yeah, has got no eardrum in there at all. There is no eardrum. I'm born with no eardrum. Now, I'm going to make a very, very bold rule now. Now, it will prove to you
Born with
that
no
I was
eardrum.
born deaf and dumb, okay?
Come on.
Hello, youngster. How you doing? Alright, you're right, Mum. No, I was just doing that, so I wanted to ask something, yeah? Well, I was just having old that review for me when I was at London and things like that. And it says in my statute report that you and Dad had said to them that I was born deaf and dumb. Is that true? No. What do they mean by being born deaf and dumb then? No. So what does that mean by me with basic sign language then? Why were they saying that then? So, so was I actually deaf at any time or no? No. Okay. No. Right, so I wasn't actually deaf and dumb then if they said no. Right, not a problem.
Okay, I know.
Well, my bad. I wasn't born deaf and dumb, so that's all good then. That's all good. I can hear you.
Even though you're deaf and dumb. That's clever.
Born deaf and dumb.
In 1888, a series of murders in the East End of London rocked England. The killings soon made headlines, the Whitechapel murders, and quickly were attributed to a mysterious individual, later dubbed Jack the Ripper. Despite a vast manhunt, no conclusive suspect was identified. Over the years, a variety of theories have developed, from the intriguing to the absurd. It's been largely presumed that the criminal was a sociopath, with some sort of intense sexual disorder. Nothing has been proven. But no one has considered a suspect hiding in plain sight. No one has considered the wig maker of Wellington Street. In 1893, Willie Clarkson was at the top of his game as a wig maker, costume maker and barber. Just 5 years earlier, Clarkson had been appointed as the royal perruquier and costumier to Queen Victoria. He was in great demand, and his wigs and costumes appeared in plays throughout London's West End. His large shop on Wellington Street was covered by autographs of famous celebrities of the time. Willie's lifelong dreams had come true. Willie Clarkson, born in 1861 as William Berry Clarkson, to Eliza Berry and William Henry Clarkson. The elder Clarkson was an ambitious wig maker and costumer in the Covent Garden area of London. Clarkson's grandfather was reportedly a barber surgeon, and though he died years before Clarkson was born, his valuable anatomical books and surgical tools surely have been kept by the family as heirlooms, available to the young Willie, who was often left alone to explore and find lonely mischief. The art of figgery was introduced to Willie early in his childhood. Instead of toys, his father allowed him only a wig to play with, and taught him how to thread a needle and place hair in a wig. Willie acted as a courier for his father, and in his youth expertly manoeuvred the nooks, crannies and back alleys of Victorian London, with customers and visitors throughout the city. Wigs were young Willie's life, and the streets were his playground. When young Willie was at school learning French in Paris, he was called back home after his father fell ill. Young Willie took over the business, and by 14 was the new Clarkson in Wigs by Clarkson. He worked relentlessly and grew his father's modest business. Success quickly followed. Though he grew to be quite large as an adult, Willie was fair and genteel in his youth. His hair and skin were light. He has been described as effeminate in manner, but was also described as broad-shouldered with a barrel chest, though only around 5 foot 5 inches tall. There has been much speculation throughout the years that he was gay and Jewish, both of which could have profoundly impacted his career if made public. He was engaged to a woman named Glover, and she would send him affectionate notes when they were apart, but the engagement ended. Willie took to lurking in shadows, stalking ex-fiancée and her new betrothed, and wore the diamond ring he gave her for the rest of his life. Despite this disturbing behaviour, Clarkson's career continued to expand. When Queen Victoria appointed Clarkson the royal wig maker and costume maker in 1888, a great ambition had been met, but it was just known as the wig maker of Wellington Street. Clarkson was glamorous and on top of the world. Perhaps he would stop at nothing to stay there. In 1888, another side of London, a rough one. The streets were filled with ruffians and con artists, pimps and prostitutes, soldiers and fugitives. Danger was everywhere, particularly in the decrepit East End. On the 7th of August 1888, the body of a woman, later identified as Martha Topham, who had fallen into a life of poverty and occasional prostitution, was found murdered in George Yard in the seedy East End. The killing was particularly brutal. The woman stabbed dozens of times with a sharp blade like a penknife, or a small scalpel, a barber surgeon. Many historians agree this was the first murder of the infamous Jack the Ripper. Circumstances of the death have been exhaustively examined. Prior theories largely rely on the belief that Martha was a random victim, a crime conducted by an individual with sociopathic tendencies seeking to satisfy sexual urges. But perhaps the death was not random or sexual. Despite the mythology of the terrible crimes, the Whitechapel murders did not appear to include sexual assaults, but were simply luridly brutal. Perhaps the killer was someone who knew the victim, a rational perpetrator killing for a rational reason, to silence particular victims, for a particular purpose, as lucid as it was ruthless. The date of Martha's murder is critical, as it occurred the day after Willie Clarkson appeared in the pages of the Evening Telegraph, described in the headline as the wigmaker of Wellington Street. The story makes clear that Clarkson was a famous and well-respected member of society, making use for the wealthy and royal. Princess Beatrice's name is specifically mentioned. Moreover, the Telegraph article revealed that Clarkson often provided disguises to members of Scotland Yard. His store is described as vast and filled with valuable merchandise. Literally thousands of wigs and costumes for a variety of uses, from theatre to hoaxes to covering up black eyes, desperate wealthy clients who required discretion. Is it possible Martha learned of the Telegraph article published the day before her death, and may have known Clarkson but was not previously aware of his true wealth and social status? Maybe she and her partner at the time considered this new knowledge could increase the value of her information. But how could a poor woman who had fallen into poverty and prostitution come to know an upper-class wigmaker of great fame? Vastly different from his reputation as a high-class wigmaker and costumier, Willie Clarkson had a dark side. In 1886, 2 years before the Whitechapel murders began, Clarkson met William Cooper Hobbs, a most unsavoury character who worked for a solicitor in an office next to Clarkson's wig shop. Subsequent years proved that Hobbs and Clarkson were almost certainly allies in crime, accused of a variety of crimes, including fraud, arson, and blackmail. Hobbs was known to consort with a variety of criminals with exotic names like the Monocled Man and the Human Ape, and was said to have organised extensive gambling and burglary rings. In 1919, Hobbs, likely with Clarkson's cooperation, perpetrated an infamous blackmail scheme, targeting the famous Harry Singh, who was to become the ruling Maharaja of Kashmir, and who the court would identify only as Mr. A to avoid a public scandal. Singh paid Hobbs and his gang £300,000 after Hobbs threatened to reveal a romantic liaison between the married presumptive Maharaja and a young woman in a Paris hotel. The young woman, Maud Robinson, was separated from her husband and had begun to fall into poverty, vulnerable to an invitation to extortion. The blackmailing scheme was soon revealed and Singh's identity was publicly disclosed. Hobbs and several other persons were implicated. Clarkson's close relationship with Hobbs strongly suggests he was involved in the extortion of the presumptive Maharaja, but he was never charged, managing to remain in the shadows. Hobbs was sentenced to 2 years in penal servitude, but was soon back on the streets and returning to his old ways. In the 1920s, Hobbs and Clarkson also allegedly blackmailed wealthy married men who were caught in compromising positions in public baths near Clarkson's shop. Because of the extent of the blackmail, the public baths were dubbed Clarkson's cottages, a place where gay men met other gay men in a time when gay sex was illegal. Exposure could cost a man his reputation, his family, or even his life. It was the perfect opportunity for blackmail. Is it possible that Clarkson and Hobbs' blackmailing proclivities started decades earlier, retaining desperate women to entice married men into extramarital affairs, and using this information for blackmail? Perhaps Martha Tabram was one of these women and had come to seek more money from Clarkson after learning from the Telegraph article of his substantial fame, fortune, and connection to the police. If so, this could have provided Clarkson with sufficient motive to kill and hedge his risks, killing with stark brutality to intimidate his other informants. This speculation is not alone sufficient to establish convincing connections between Clarkson and the Whitechapel murders. Can evidence be discerned from the lives of the other victims? The growing likelihood of a pattern and relationship between Clarkson and the Whitechapel murders becomes clearer on September the 30th, 1888. The night the fourth and fifth women were killed by a figure known as Jack the Ripper. On the 30th of September, Catherine Eddowes was killed at Myrtle Square in a gruesome night that is widely accepted as being one of the Whitechapel murders. Catherine was born in 1842 and her family moved to London the same year. She eventually met a man and had 2 children, living and working for several years in Birmingham. She began to drink heavily, however, and was forced to leave her family. She returned to London and soon met another man. The two roamed the city streets, frequenting lodging houses, casual wards and workhouses. Worked as a domestic servant and charwoman for Jewish neighbourhood families, learning Yiddish herself, creating abundant opportunity to find information that might prove valuable to a blackmailer like Clarkson. Financially desperate and a vulnerable alcoholic, it is not difficult to speculate on why she would be an attractive target for Clarkson to engage as an informant. Two of the earlier victims of the Whitechapel murders also fit this profile. Anne Chapman and Mary Ann Nichols lived relatively staid middle-class lives until misfortune forced them into the street. Both became destitute, living in workhouses or lodging houses that required nightly rent payments, often resorting to the streets to find the few shillings necessary for a roof over their head. Both women lived in the East End and often slept rough under the stars. Like Catherine, Anne Chapman was a domestic servant and would have had access to potential incriminating information and would have been financially distressed enough to trade it for a few shillings. Like Martha Tavram, Mary Ann Nichols likely engaged in prostitution, putting her clients in compromising situations that may have been valuable to Clarkson, as in the Maharaja case years later. The weapon in each of these murders was a sharp instrument around 6 inches, like a set of barber shears or a surgical knife. It would be easy for Clarkson to navigate the different neighbourhoods of the East End and West End without detection. A master of disguise, it would be second nature for Clarkson to wear a poor man's rags on one corner of a street and a rich man's top hat and tails by the time he reached the next corner. Brown-haired one minute, a ginger the next. Compellingly, all of the Whitechapel murders occurred within 3 miles of Willie Clarkson's shop, where he freely since he was a child, and which would have provided him quickly accessible, safe refuge after each crime. Patterns begin to emerge. On the same night and around the hour that Catherine Eddowes was killed, Elizabeth Stride met her sad demise on Berner Street. Born and raised in Sweden, Elizabeth emigrated to London after receiving a small inheritance following her mother's death. She married a carpenter and the two opened a shop, which was successful until Elizabeth's husband fell ill and passed away. Elizabeth drank heavily. She later found a new partner, but fell into poverty and the two had a tumultuous relationship, often living together on or near Dorset Street. Elizabeth had previously defrauded a variety of people, claiming that she was a survivor of the Princess Alice, an infamous ship disaster, as well as other fraudulent bases to seek charitable contributions. Like Catherine Eddowes, Elizabeth sometimes worked as a domestic servant in neighbourhood houses, providing opportunity to gather valuable information. Without any money or future prospects, and diminished by alcohol, Elizabeth squarely fits Clarkson's grooming profile. Most compellingly, the murderer left behind a revelatory clue at the crime scene: the Berner Street wig, a custom wig that Willie Clarkson himself admitted he made. This is a true smoking gun, a literal calling card with the name of Clarkson's wig shop embroidered within it. According to Clarkson, Scotland Yard brought the wig to his store and he positively identified it. He claimed to have searched for a bill of sale but couldn't locate one. Of course, if it was Clarkson himself who was the killer, no bill of sale would have existed. Remarkably, the detectives did not follow up on this lead. It has long been posited that the killer was interrupted or distracted after the Elizabeth Stride murder, causing him to flee without concluding some ritual act of sexual brutality. This theory asserts that the murderer needed to find another victim to fulfill his burning, sadistic desires that night. But what if the motive had nothing to do with sexual deviance, but was simply about money? If so, the less theatrical thing could have been rushed because the killer had further business plans that night. By this time, the Whitechapel murders were national news. Every beat cop in the city was on alert. Clarkson may have wanted to remove the rest of his informants as quickly as possible to minimize risk of capture. He worked with the police, even providing them disguises for the search, and he may have known they were getting closer. This could be the reason the killer attacked twice in one night. If so, is it possible that Clarkson wanted to conclude all his business of murder in a single night, which included not just 2 targets, but 3? There is some evidence to support such a theory. That night, the killer made a third stop on Goulston Street, close to the Mitre murder scene. While no murder on Goulston Street occurred, 2 pieces of physical evidence suggest the third murder was planned. On the night of the double killing, a portion of a bloodied apron was found near the front of a tenement in Goulston Street. The apron belonged to Catherine Meadows, who upon inspection was found to be wearing an apron that had a portion of it cleanly cut away, as if cut by a person trained in fabric work, like Clarkson. Historians have linked the apron to the murderer, either to wipe the blood from his hands or perhaps to grimly preserve a portion of Miss Eddowes' body as a souvenir. But what if the fabric was the souvenir itself, accidentally left behind while a disguise was changed, or a calling card meant to intimidate? Clarkson was known to always take small items as souvenirs during his travels. Indeed, a piece of muslin cloth was found at the site of the murder of both Anne Chapman and Mary Ann Nichols. Muslin was a fabric which at the time was used for theatrical set backgrounds, as well as luxury clothing that a poor working-class woman would be unlikely to wear. Calling cards of a theatrical costumier, termed silk. In addition to the apron fragment found on Goulston Street, the police also found a short phrase scrawled in chalk on the wall of a nearby tenement, which read, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." Anti-Semitism was rampant in London at the time, and it is possible graffiti was simply a coincidence. But could it have been a warning? Clarkson was likely Jewish, though he denied it. It is possible that Clarkson arranged a meeting on Goulston Street to kill another informant, perhaps one who was aware of his Jewish heritage, but she missed the meeting. Maybe she deduced Clarkson was responsible for the Whitechapel murders and fled from their intended meeting place. Knowing the police would soon find his other murder scene just a couple of streets away, Clarkson may have quickly scrawled the graffiti as a message and threat to this remaining informant before escaping back to his wig shop. To analyse this possibility, it is necessary to consider Mary Jane Kelly and the circumstances of her death, which was the name and likely last of the Whitechapel murder. Mary Jane Kelly was found dead over a month after the previous murders. Of Irish or Welsh descent, she married a collier, but he was killed in a mine explosion. She could not support herself and wandered to Cardiff, where she lived with a cousin who introduced her to prostitution. She eventually relocated to London, where a French woman employed her in a high-class West End brothel. She was described as particularly attractive and finely dressed. She travelled several times to France, as English women in the sex trade sometimes did, and once travelled mysteriously to Paris with an unknown man for a 2-week trip. Clarkson also frequently travelled to France for work, fitting wigs and costumes for royals and actors. He spoke French fluently, but in a rough Cockney accent. Is it possible that the gentleman who accompanied Mary Jane on her mysterious trip to Paris was Clarkson? Perhaps Clarkson used Mary Jane to lure some wealthy person into a compromising position for extortion purposes. Such a blackmail scheme would be identical to the one used in Paris to ensnare the Maharaja years later. Mary Jane, vulnerable and succumbing to drink, must have been another perfect candidate for Clarkson's blackmail network. Mary Jane eventually found herself no longer working in a West End high-class brothel, but rather relegated to the roughest parts of the East End. She eventually came to live in a back room on seedy Dorset Street. office bearers at the East End. Mary Jane's residence in 1888 was owned by a man named John McCarthy. McCarthy was a good friend of Marie Lloyd, the young and vastly popular musical entertainer of the time, and whose mother was a London-based dressmaker and costume designer. Critically, Willie Clarkson also knew Marie Lloyd well, and was so close to her that he introduced her to his close friend and client Bernhardt at a social gathering, starting a new friendship. Born in the impoverished East End, Marie Lloyd knew these streets as well as Clarkson. Both lived in the area their entire lives. Clarkson in the West End, Lloyd in the East End. Like Clarkson, Lloyd was only 14 years old when she began to work in show business, working in East End music halls before moving to more prestigious theatres in the West End. Marie Lloyd was known to bring her theatre friends drinking with her in the East End. Clarkson surely could have met Mary Jane Kelly at one of these gatherings. Music hall reviews were sent to attract prostitutes who hoped to find potential clients in the crowd of the bawdy and rowdy shows. Perhaps Clarkson met some or all of his eventual victims at these reviews. Around midnight on the 9th of November, the night of her death, Mary Jane Kelly returned to her room on Dorset Street with an unknown man. At least 2 people claimed to hear her singing the sad music hall tune, "A Violet Plucked from Mother's Grave." One can almost picture Clarkson sitting on the small bed listening to Mary Jane sing for the final time, perhaps songs she had sung him years earlier. The next morning, Mary Jane's body was found. It was the most brutal of the killings, but the police thought Mary Jane was asphyxiated, and the injuries sustained post-mortem. Body parts seem to have been deliberately placed on and around the bed, and the body moved or rearranged. It was so disturbing it seems as though the scene had been arranged theatrically, staged as a final warning message. The knife used in this murder was considered similar to the one used in the other Whitechapel murders, around 6 inches in length, possibly a surgical knife or barber's shears. A doctor also provided a primitive profile of the likely murderer, one who had substantial physical strength, but in appearance was likely to be inoffensive and well-dressed, and was likely solitary and eccentric in his habits, living among respectable. This would be a way of describing Clarkson. It is theorized that Mary Jane likely knew and trusted her assailant. With the famous Sarah Bernhardt and Marie Lloyd vouching for him as close friends, Clarkson would have been a trusted figure. After the killing of Mary Jane Kelly, the murder seemed to stop. While the press attempted to link several other murders to Jack the Ripper, they are now considered by many to be too different in method and timing to be the same. There are a variety of theories as to the abrupt halt of killing, that the murderer was killed or imprisoned, or fled when he realized the story became too big for him to avoid capture. But what if the killing seemed to end only because the police were looking for the wrong victim profile? A prostitute stalked by a sexual sociopath, rather than someone who was killed by a ruthless business person for a rational purpose. Perhaps the murder hadn't stopped at all, but simply changed tactics. In 1897, one of Clarkson's longtime clients, William Terrace, was murdered with a 6-inch knife in front of the Adelphi Theatre. The killing was attributed to a lunatic, who was subsequently confined to a lunatic asylum. But perhaps this was Clarkson's new means of dealing with business problems, astutely outsourcing murder. It is disputed that the murderer of William Terrace was a failed actor named Richard Archer Prince, with a long history of mental illness. But Prince's motive for the killing was never clear. According to his testimony at his trial, Terrace and other actors occasionally gave money to Prince, ostensibly out of friendship. Terrace stopped making payments days before his killing, which many point to as motive for the killing. Clarkson recapped
But no, there's nothing there,
his
right?
career,
No.
and Terrace's autograph was one of the many that Clarkson kept in his famous autograph book. Often gambled
have a
with
picture
Willie
of this
Clarkson
in the face.
famed theatre manager George Edwards. Terrace and other actors
Hello,
apparently
Red
often
Square.
lost wages, and Edwards was said to laugh away the debt without acting. But it would have been quite
Hello,
unusual
Wigs.
to be so generous.
Started off with a stencil. You start off with a stencil and then you start the rest.
Collected his earnings over a period of time, like a loan shark.
Wait, I'll show you. Hold on.
Perhaps his associate
I'll be back in
Clarkson
5. I'll
was
show you
able
in a
to
minute.
blackmail the vulnerable Richard Prince and force him to collect these gambling payments. After all, Clarkson's longtime partner in William Cooper Hobbs was said to have operated an extensive gambling ring that would have welcomed such business. When Terrace stopped making payments, perhaps Prince was left with no choice but to kill Terrace or be killed himself. Indeed, Edwards sent a message to the theatre that fateful night with an invitation for Terrace to play chess after the show. Could it be that the messenger was sent to ensure the dastardly deed was done? Tellingly, Prince testified he believed it was either Terrace or him that would die that night. Prince had actually claimed for years prior to the murder that he had been blackmailed, a trade with which Clarkson was well acquainted. At a tea party just weeks before the murder, Prince pointed to his powdered wig and stated fully to his host, "It's only this secret sorrow that's made me what I am." At his trial, Prince was surprised when he learned that an unnamed patron retained a lawyer for him, and he stated in open court that this lawyer must have been paid by the party who made him kill Terrace. Perhaps Clarkson arranged a lawyer for Prince to sway the eventual sentence and ensure that Prince was confined to a lunatic asylum. Once the verdict was issued, Clarkson would have been confident his legacy was safe. And so it was.
That one.
Clarkson's fame and fortune remained with him
You
the
start
rest
with
of
that.
his life. He made wigs and costumes for acclaimed theatrical actors
I started with that, and that's what I've got.
including ongoing work
Aye,
for
Callie
Mary
is
Ben's friend Marie Lloyd and Sarah Bernhardt. He was dubbed King of Wigs by the newspapers and wrote articles on the art of stars. He received countless thank you notes and wig inquiries from a desirous theatre community that couldn't get enough of his eccentric style, vanity, and buoyant charm. In 1934, Willie Clarkson was found in the small flat above his store, lying dead on the bedroom floor in his nightgown with a vicious gash across his forehead. It was unclear whether he fell ill and hit his head or whether foul play occurred. However, his former fiancée's diamond ring, which Clarkson wore every day until his death, was missing, as was £250 he supposedly kept in his rooms. It is clear that Willie Clarkson spent much of his career as a wigmaker living a second life of crime, fraud, arson, and blackmail. Did his sordid resume also include murder? As we have seen, there is evidence that Clarkson had the motive, expertise, and opportunity to commit these horrific crimes. Clarkson was a known blackmailer. If Clarkson had been a blackmailer from the start, there was certainly a motive to remove or intimidate his informants once he perceived them as a threat. Clarkson was a master of disguise and could effortlessly elude identification, as it was his second nature to alter appearances. Clarkson was a barber and wigmaker. His grandfather was reportedly a barber surgeon, and who would therefore have access to barber shears or surgical knives that fit the profile of the presumed.
I'm out here, Callie, I'm drinking stuff on my
The
feet.
police trusted Clarkson. He repeatedly worked with Scotland Yard, including on the Whitechapel murders, and would have had easy access to know in which direction the investigation was. Plain sight is sometimes the best place to hide. Clarkson admitted he made the Berners Street wig found at the Elizabeth Stride crime scene. The police inexplicably accepted his statement that he simply couldn't find the receipt for the wig and did not dig deeper. All of the victims had reached a desperate stage in their lives and were vulnerable to grooming for Clarkson's blackmailing scheme. There is a clear geographical pattern to the murders. Each killing occurred close to Clarkson's Wellington Street shop. Having grown up just a few miles from the scenes of the crime, Clarkson knew how to manoeuvre the narrow streets
Alright,
without
so I'm out here and see, doing stuff on my printer.
known as the most secretive man. Willie Clarkson certainly led a
Printing some
strange
stuff that I
life
need.
of intrigue.
The drawers and shit.
Over 100 years later, it is doubtful whether we will ever know the truth, but the evidence is surely sufficient to speculate that, just perhaps, Jack the Ripper really was Willie Clarkson, the wigmaker of Wellington Street.
Right, time to change back to black. Right, I need to change back to black. Put in some more black. How are you doing, Callie? You alright? Still on your face?
That's quite noisy in here, mate. Got the fans going, the printer's going.
Okay,
Once
everything's
that
right.
compressor kicks up, you know, it's quite loud. Eh?
So what you been up to? Anything? Same old, same old?
Right, you smoke weed, Callie? Nah, you can't, man. You're no child enough to smoke weed. Nah, you can't be a weed smoker, mate. You're not old enough, man. For fuck's sake, you cause a right in an empty house.
Did you see the last one I done, Callie? Smoke weed every day.
That's a me.
You want to smoke more?
Oh, you need to smoke more, mate.
Start getting your bones.
I've got 99 problems and a scouse.
Scouse.
Are you one?
Hello, Mason. No, didn't see it. Sorry. Right, hold on.
Callie's nearly as famous as fucking John Lennon.
Oh, sugar. Uh-oh.
You don't think it was the Beatles that put fucking Liverpool on the map? It was Callie.
Gonna need to get a nice wee folder or something to put them on. Oh, buddy, done rod. Oh! Ah, it's just messing about, eh, Ken? And that's only like just over 2 weeks or something that I've been airbrushing. Ken, but I enjoy it. Why the fuck? Saves me finishing up in time skip, doesn't it? Right?
Right.
Right. Well, going from white to black isn't really as going from black to white, I suppose. It's a bond, it's a bond. There's Callie G. Mac. Who's Geo Mac?
Geo Mac.
Who's Geo Mac?
Fuck no. Neil McGill. I don't really know. Who's Geo Mac, Callie?
Dog. Don't worry about it, Mason. So cool. And I miss her, but she had a great life, eh? She had a wonderful life. It's okay, Mason.
I think Callie's dog passed away.
Did your dog pass away as well, Callie? Sorry to hear that.
She's confused, I think she's... I know Callie, aye.
Sorry. Could sure be lost Millie, I know. My sister. Whatever, it's just me. Me and my stupid head. Right. I'm ready to stick some black in it.
Right, it's a bit shite like that, but shit happens, eh?
Yeah, I know. Right, got another wee quick smoke and then I'm going to jump in with black. Gun's all ready to go. Just fill it with paint and we're good. I nearly gave up on that this painting last night. Hello.
Some coffee.
Hi, please, I'd love one. But I think my cup must be doing the other one. Thank you.
It's not, it's Jack made you one before, didn't he?
A decaf mocha?
No, I'm saying, we don't have it up here before the cup. Because you had a coffee in it.
Oh, I should have took it down the plates.
Alright, okay, cool. Will you take that glass for us?
Oh.
Cheers.
They bother Mason, take it easy. Bye.
See you later, Mum.
Toodle pip.
See you later, mate. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Take it easy, bro.
I got light too bright. Better enough, isn't it? When I'm not painting at least. Duh. Maybe up to months in. I think it's sitting on the registry. Right. That one is better. That one. That one I think.
live and I'm not go live. But I wanted to just check in with everybody. I know people have asked me, and they were a bit concerned that I've been so quiet, and it's just been a long, slow road back to recovery. Some low level of fitness from where I was before the sun washed out. But I am back out in the field. You see, it is a stunningly gorgeous day here in the north of Scotland. I think I moved, and I as I said, you can see in this field there are neeps in it, so we can't have fun. But we have all of this bit. And there's Mr. Gavin getting the young muppet ready. And all right around the wall, and there's 3 layer of burn, and it is this is a super, super historic Brunswick landscape. So fingers crossed, high hopes, lots and lots of things to find. I want to give a huge shout out. Hello, Dean! I want to give a huge shout out to Clive with the Simplex Plus Merch Group, who sent me this fantastic hat. You will notice that I do not have the badge on it. Now, the badge I'm going to put myself with an iron and an ironing board. And I'm afraid that I'm not touching anything. Well, don't tell anyone. This is the badge. It's very, very cool. It's going to go right on there. I have to iron it on, see? But I want to give out a shout to them to say thank you so much for sending it to me. What it's going to look like. But unfortunately, I haven't got around to doing that yet. I'm getting to prepare in between. And that takes 2 days full on cooking. It's quite a big deal. I've also got car, which I'm looking forward to. But one thing I don't have is forward-facing stickers to go on my sleeve. Because I just show you. Now, I'm wearing off at the moment, but my sleeve here has stickers. This one came from Australia. One of these is Scottish Rest. It's completely worn off. My one's completely worn off. That's been shown to the truth. One of these was Treasure Band. That Treasure Band is there. I don't remember what that one was. Or that one. They've all worn off. So I need to back on here and do some kind of a
Thank you.
varnish or something over top of them so that they don't get worn out. So I'm dedicated to sending another one. And anyone else that has sent me one. Thank you very much, Dean. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Daniel and Nicola. Nope, that was Steve. So we'll get those back on the black at it and get it laminated or something varnish over the so they don't wear off. I'm not easy on my equipment. They get dropped in the puddles, they get worn with sandy soil and it just wears them off. So, anyway, I'm going to stop this. I'm not going to keep this running while I walk around the field, but I will thank you very much, Stephen. It is great to be back. And as soon as the end of it, just so you can see where we are, because it is stunning today. Absolutely stunning. Scotland is a beautiful country with it is just beautiful up here. It's a good thing because we're very remote and we have other things we have to pay price for that sort of beauty. But anyway, yeah, I'm making no sense now. I'm going to get out here. I'm going to send you guys the video. Put it in the comments of this and I'll check it as I get around the field. And if I find something really good, I'll go back on live. I'll just control it around. I'll go back on live to show you what we found. And I haven't forgot, one of my viewers asked me to make a video of my best find because they're in the US and they'd like to know what sort of thing to find over here because it's so very different. So find a good coin or find something like that, I'll go back live. Otherwise, I will put it all in the videos for you and get it uploaded tonight. And just wanted to check in with everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with me when I've been quiet because it's not been easy, but hopefully onwards and upwards, we're back on now. And stay safe. I'll speak to you soon. Now.
Slad.
Could you please step 2 meters from the lady? Yes, guys. Yes, guys. Going down to Leicester today. Boom. Needs a bit of a valet. There's a little slack car. Needs cleaning out, like what? Get this deal. Pull it off. And nobody can hit the car. Boom. Alright, guys. So we're in Nottingham now. We've been in Leicester today. Big HMP Leicester. Quick audit there, guys, just to add it to my list. We didn't get an interaction. It was nice and smooth. And then I went on to Leicester Police. Just a little education. Officers, you're not social distancing. Can you social distance, please? It's 2 meters. And you haven't got face masks on as well. So can you keep your distance from the lady, please? We're trying to keep everybody safe, mate, and 2 meters apart. It's actually a law now. So you're breaking it. Could you please step 2 meters from the lady? I am telling you to do it because it's the law. Yes, it is. You're breaching COVID regulations and you're on camera doing it, and I will be sending it to professional standards if you don't step away from that lady. I will send it to professional standards, I promise you, because listen, people are out there getting arrested for breaching COVID regulations and you're stood there breaching them. Can I take your collar number, please? Sorry? And do you have a name? Can I take the lady's collar number, please? Because you're all getting reported under the COVID-19. Okay. Okay. Are you a landowner? Okay. Okay. Well, I believe in law. Only the landowner can trespass me. Yeah. Lady, can I take your collar number, please? But you standing 2 meters to this officer. Okay. Okay. You don't have to.
Oh, I'm getting ready to go.
I need your collar number. I need your collar number. Because are you fair to identify? You're refusing to identify. Caught in a crime, you have to identify yourself. I'll be sending that to professional standards and you'll be in bother. I promise you that, lady. You're supposed to identify yourself to the public. That's your policy. You breach policy and professional standards will not like it. Officer, why is she refusing to identify? How can I identify this lady when I'm making a complaint? Yeah, well, do you know what it is, love? Yeah, can I just get you? Yeah, I need to get your collar number. Can I have your collar? I can't complain about you then. You'll lose your job for this. And you're refusing to give me the collar number. And you're refusing to give the collar number. You do on request of the public. It's your policy, love. Yeah, you do. Live free, guys. Yeah. This lady's refusing to identify. She's impersonating a police officer. The police policy is to identify herself on request, and she's refusing to identify. You're impersonating. Can I get the collar number? Will you allow me to get the collar number? You're not police. You're a bad police officer. All right, it's disgusting. This. Officer. This lady is refusing to give me her collar number. No, I don't like it because you're using COVID regulations. And you're still refusing to identify. Yes, you do, on request of the public. It's in the police policy. Yes, it is, Liz. Yes, I want to report you. I want to report you for breaching COVID regulations, and you will give me a collar number to do so. But I can't without your collar. That is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Probably lose your job for that. And I do this for a living, guys, so I do know. Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day. Terrible. Police abusing powers, guys. Failing to identify, impersonating a police officer, breaching COVID regulations, guys. This is our police force. This is our police force, guys. This lady is refusing to identify. Yeah. All police officers must produce. Because all police officers must. I've got a feeling she's not. But what's the collar number then? Terrible. You give me yours. Why did you give me your collar number, sir? Because you know that it's the policy and you have to do that. You don't have to do that. Guys, this is terrible. Watch it. Excuse me, officer, can I take your collar number, please? Yeah. What for? Because you have to, on request to the public, you'll find out later, I promise, guys. This is terrible. This is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Listen, because you call the regulations officer. While breaching, it was breaching COVID regulations, guys. You stood on each other, guys. You stood on top of each other, guys. Come on, please be truthful. Sit next to him. Okay, okay. Pardon me, yes, sir. Okay, but why are you all refusing to identify? I don't understand that. And professional standards will be on your case for that, I promise you. You have to identify. You identify. So you acted with the policy in the policy. Why is this officer not and this officer not? They don't have to. Okay, you're gonna find that wrong, officer. You must do that. And you know, guys, leave a comment, guys. Look what they're doing. They're refusing to identify. Clearly, this lady here, I've asked her 15 times. Under no circumstances did she give me the details. This officer is refusing to identify as well. This officer giving details. It's terrible, guys. I'm very disappointed. I'm reporting on misconduct hearings at Nottinghamshire Police. Okay, that's what happened today. And as I was reporting, coming up, checking my visual, I noticed officers breaking the law. And I've approached the officers and asked for details so I can get on top of that, and I've been refused. Obviously, I'm a little peed off, but I'll do it. Go down the correct channels, you know, rather than spouting off. I'll go down the correct channels. We'll deal with it appropriately. But if you can just have a word with the lady and let her know that if a member of the public asks you for your collar number, you must do that. It's in the policy. She's going to find out the hard way, guys. And yeah, you're dismissed. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Yes, you are dismissed. You're dismissed, guys. Recognised. Oh, why not? Don't you have respect for me, officer? It's not disrespectful. You provide a service to me, and if I don't need that service anymore, you are dismissed. You're not dismissed. I do it many times. You're dismissed. You're dismissed. You're dismissed. Have a nice day. God bless you guys. Improper use of procedure, guys. Professional standards, improper use of procedure, and failing to identify. Thank you. God bless you guys. So guys, we're at Nottingham reporting on police misconduct at Nottinghamshire Police, and as we're walking up the road, we notice officers breaching COVID regulations. We ask the officers what they're doing breaching these regulations. We've asked officers to identify themselves. They've not done so. Are you alright, officer? Officer, can I have a word? Are you a sergeant? Sergeant, this? Yeah. What we're doing today is we're reporting on misconduct hearings at Nottinghamshire Police. As I was walking up, taking my visual, I noticed officers in the Ginner Way breaching COVID regulations. I've approached the officers and asked for their collar numbers, to which two officers have refused to give me their shoulder number. I've told the officers that I will be reporting professional standards, because in the police policy that on request you must produce a collar number to a member of the public. No, the lady didn't. She's on record refusing to do it 10-15 times. Whether they have or they haven't, okay, but whether they have or they haven't, well, let's put that aside, because whether they're guilty of that or whether they're in the public. Okay, no, but you're supposed to do it on request, right? And that's improper use of procedure. Yeah, an officer on request, when a member of the public asks for the collar number, it's quite serious as well. You think it's nothing. No, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong there, look. If I ask you to identify yourself, yeah, immediately you must identify yourself. It's in your policy. You don't know your policy, obviously, but professional standards will drill that into you. Yes, demanding, yeah, because you must provide me it. Because I wanted to report you, because I didn't want to... No. No. You got challenged. You got challenged because I thought you were breaking the law. Yes. I'm not sure. I will let the professional standards decide whether that was in procedure or not. No, you're wrong there. You're wrong. Okay, fine. Right, the lady's complaining now why she don't wear a mask, but that's besides the point, right? Pardon? Okay. But it's besides the point, guys. The issue is, that's not the issue. The COVID stuff is not the issue now. The issue now is that you failed to identify people. You should have done it immediately. I'm sorry. If you apologise, if you say sorry to me now, if you say sorry, well then it's going to go further, because listen, you can't break procedure, you enforce the law. I didn't shout, it's all on record, you're lying. Now she's lying, Sergeant, it's all on record. Okay. I've already got it, fine. It's only the ladies I need. This guy acted perfectly fine. He produced his collar number and his name. He's my brother, and pardon, no. No, you're alright, love, thank you very much. You're alright, thank you. I know my law, I know my laws, I know my rights, I know my civil. Okay. Oh, here we go, guys. Look what's happening now, guys. Do you know what, right? I can see this leading into a civil claim now. I really can. I promise you. Am I obliged to give you my details, officer? No, it's not but, right? No, it's not but. No. Sergeant, am I obliged to give my details? Will you please educate this officer? Yeah. Okay. No, we can't do that. We can't do that because we're not breaching any laws, we're not breaching any regulations. We're out here working, guys. And now I feel like, yeah, exactly. Now I feel like you're asking for my details to do me harm because I've challenged. It feels that way. Okay, that's got nothing to do with it. No, that's got nothing to do with it. Look, we do live at the same address. I've just told you that. What? So you're going to tell me now that two people together, you're going to go and ask them to prove that they live at... This is ridiculous, guys. Come on. You're the one in the wrong here, and I've asked for an apology, and now you're trying to spin it on me like I'm doing something wrong. This is terrible. This is our police force across the nation. Look what we put up with. Look, dealing with. We pay these guys, like, we need to let them know. We pay these guys, and we are not going to accept this behaviour. We are going to stand, we are going to come out, and we are going to hold you guys accountable, because we're getting fed up, guys, we are. Thank you. No, that's it. You're dismissed. Thank you, and have a nice day. Thank you, guys. I'm really unhappy. I wouldn't have been like this. I'm really unhappy. Look, you should have given me your badge number, and I'm very disappointed. And you're breaching the police policy, though. You might not be breaching the COVID regulations, but you're definitely breaching. Sergeant, you tell her that.
I'm not trying to.
God bless, guys. You're dismissed, Sergeant. Thank you.
Dobbs.
Thank you. There we go, guys. So, Nottinghamshire Police there in the centre of guys. Absolutely terrible. Big fail. This is what we're putting up with. Guys, up and down the country. And yeah, just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, guys. So yeah, here we are. Nottingham Police Station. Naughty officers. Very naughty officers. I will not report on professional standards. Well, maybe I should. Maybe you guys should. I don't think I've got the time. Or maybe I should. But be quick to report me. You know what, yeah? Down to me getting locked up last Friday. Due to that happening. Yeah? Which needs reporting for. Failure to identify. It was like a schoolyard argument. I felt very much in control of that situation. I have nobody talking over me, so I can fully concentrate on what needs to come out. Let them guys know. Get educated. You've just been educated by Live Free Nottingham. Big shout out and a big respect to all the people in the Midlands and Nottingham And yeah, big love guys, respect, thanks for watching.
So I've got this excellent piece of equipment today. It's a miniature belt sander, and it's an absolute brilliantly engineered piece of equipment. It's made of solid aluminium plate. It has a 12 to 24 volt DC motor, and it comes with this excellent AC to DC power adapter. It has an AC voltage input of 110 volts to 240 volts and an output DC voltage of 12 volts to 24 volts in 7 different steps. And those step increments are controlled with this slide switch on the side here, and you have 12 volt, 18 volt, 16, 18, 19, 20 and 24 volts, and that gives the 7 different speeds on the belt sander. Now the AC power adapter came with this 3-pin plug on here, and you can actually plug it into one of these shaver type plugs for the UK market, and this one has a fuse which is good, but it's best to chain up the wire all together. It's one of these standard type 3-pin plugs, and they're the same type that goes into the back of a monitor or computer. And whenever I get rid of any electrical equipment, I keep these cables, and I have one of those cables which can just plug straight into this unit, and then the unit is at earth. And then on the output side of the AC to DC power adapter, you have this standard type 5.5mm jack plug, which plugs into the input socket on the belt sander here. The belt sander comes complete with 10 abrasive belts of various different grades, and these belts are used on other tools like finger files. They're a standard size, which are 330 times 10mm, therefore they're easy to get hold of and very low cost. You will see that the belt sander is a real high quality piece of kit, and like I said earlier, is made mainly out of thick aluminium plate. The switch housing here is made of stainless steel, and that's quite thick as well. And the whole thing is put together with Allen bolts. And it comes complete with a set of 5 different Allen keys to actually do those Allen bolts for adjustment or for taking it apart. On this side here we have the 4 rollers made of good quality machined aluminium, the drive roller on the motor here, and then the guide rollers, the actual belt, These guide rollers are fitted with proper bearings. On the top roller you have this Allen bolt adjustment and this is for assembly here. So when you screw that Allen bolt in, it will lift that and make the belt run central on the rollers and also give it a little bit of tension.
Are we darting across the UK helping businesses like you?
On the front of the belt sander here you have this tool cable which is fully adjustable. You slacken this Allen bolt here and then you can adjust the angle of the cable upwards or downwards. Plus you can also slide it backwards and forwards to reduce the gap between the actual belt and the cable. And you want that gap to be as least as possible without the belt actually touching the forehead. And when you've adjusted that, it's worth actually turning it by hand first to see that the abrasive belt isn't actually touching that tool there. Your find the belt sander to be absolutely excellent. It's brilliant to have a miniature one like this. It's great for sharpening smaller tools like pen knives or whatever. And I actually use it for sharpening these homemade engraver tools that I've got. Plus it's also excellent for watchmakers or those that make really small components. You can have one like this indoors and it doesn't actually make too much noise, nice and small. And it's great for actually shaping or deburring very tiny components. I think it's an absolutely excellent piece of kit. It's even brilliant for just a showpiece. And I think if I had a tool shop, I'd have one of these at counter display. The only thing that I may alter on mine, at some point I may take the aluminium base plate off there and drill some holes. I can actually secure it to a table or a nice block so that I can hold it in a bench vise. And I have actually tested this belt sander out and it really works well, but until I've got those screw holes and it's screwed onto a table or onto a block of wood in the bench vise, I won't be able to show it in its excellence. Just by holding on here and switching it on, I'll show you how it actually sands this tool here. So you can see there it has excellent power and great, like I say, for shaping small metal components or even wood and plastic.
Yeah, we had to do one. Everybody called me fines. Me and Arthur escaped. We had to get out of there. Me and Arthur went to Cockney, got police were dealing with everybody. They said that they were locking the car in this compound. And we just come back, the compound's open. There's a police car. They can't do that, can they? There's a police car over there with lights on. There with lights on. And I believe it's going to wait for us to come out of this complex. And I'm going to follow up behind us, watch this drive. There it comes. There it fucking comes. So here we go, guys. We are getting pulled over, I don't think. Yeah. There we go, guys, getting pulled over.
I've got no lights, so sharp.
Getting followed now, guys, by a police beamer. It's up our arse. Don't know if we've got lights. There we are. Light us up. They've been with me for the last couple of weeks, haven't they? Yeah. Yeah, like I do.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Just going to have to send you details of who's driving the vehicle, whether it's been
No problem, officer.
Can I take your collar number, please?
Of course you can, it's 2242.
Can I take your collar number, please? Do you have a name? Do you have a name? Do you not have a name? Sorry?
I did.
I didn't hear it, sorry.
Can't put
Yeah. So what's the name?
After this load, still want
I'm not saying that, I'm speaking to someone, I'm actually know the name who I'm speaking to. Nicola. Okay.
There you go, officer.
Yes, sir, thank you very
And as you see, you know this is my disability vehicle, so I'd rather not get out unless you need to be seen.
No, don't need to see me at all.
Thank you, officer.
You're welcome.
Insured.
Is the car registered in your name, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hit the like button, guys.
And as you see, this is my disability vehicle.
I'm talking to the phone.
It's my disability vehicle.
What's
It is registered with disability vehicle.
With disability,
Would you like the logbook insurance, officer?
No, it's alright, it's fine, thank you.
I have got them, as you know, it's an offence not to carry them.
Why is it?
Because you're supposed to have them when you're asked to produce them.
You've got 7 days in which to produce them at a police station, and nowadays, with modern technology, a lot of that stuff we can have from the police national computer and the DVLA website. Thanks for the information,
Thank you.
No problem. You just bear with us.
Hello, Zipper.
No problem.
Guys, we're coming out the laptops now. Look at this. Okay. Very professional.
We try to be.
Yeah. Well, guys, we believe
I'm going to put another wee dodder white on it. Try and fix her eyes and her nose there.
This Christmas,
UV a little bit.
thousands of families will struggle to put a meal on the table or a gift under the tree. That's why we partnered with food charity Fair Share and family support charity Home Start to help.
Finished for the night, my back's getting sore.
Can I ask you what you stopped me for, officer?
Yeah, the road traffic. Can you keep your distance, please, mate? There's a coronavirus.
Stop me, officer.
Officer, can you stay 2 meters away from the vehicle, please? I'm trying, I just can't hear you. Yeah, but there's a coronavirus. That don't excuse coming in 2 meters of people, mate. I can't hear him, so I can't answer him. I don't get phones. You're 1 meter away from the officer.
I'll probably do some more work on it tomorrow for the night and finish.
Too close to me. Because you won't get fined, will you? Because you're above the law, aren't you? Yeah, you are. Well, keep 2 meters away from us then. So you're breaching COVID regulations, right? Yeah, you are, because you're closer than 2 meters. You're maintaining 2 meter distance because you're going to all possible that. And at this moment in time, I'm trying to speak to the gentleman. Well, I can't hear him. If you stand 2 meters back and keep me safe, right, I'll relay what you're saying if you can't hear it. I tell you what, if you want to up to here, let's stay safe. Let's stay safe. Don't say it, listen to me. Your fingers touching me. And then I'll stick through the gaps. Look what he's doing, guys. Look what he's doing. He's trying to infect us with coronavirus here. Well, you're getting very close and touching the car. You're touching the vehicle. What if you've got coronavirus and you're touching the vehicle and I touch it and I catch you? You touch that then, yeah. There, sir. You're on record doing it, sir. Yeah, you're on this recording doing it. And if I touch that and you've got coronavirus, then I've got coronavirus. Well, yeah, that's how it works, sir. That's how viruses are spread. That's how viruses are spread. You need to be medically trained to know how viruses get spread, pal. You heard this, guys. You need to be medically trained now. Yeah. So medically trained now, guys, to understand that viruses are easily spread by contact. Just for your viewers. Yeah, for the viewers.
Thank you, officer.
Thank you. Guys, yeah, so basically they ask you if you're medically trained. By asking not to be infected with coronavirus, you get asked, are you medically trained? No, I'm not medically trained, but I do know that viruses pass by contact. What do you do with the coronavirus? Sorry? Spouting? You're quite disrespectful, officer. We've been very... You said I'm spouting. It's... What's your name, please? What's your name? My name's Gareth. Okay. Am I obliged to give you my name? Sorry? Am I obliged to give you my name? You're not obliged. Okay. I suspect you're the gentleman that was swearing at me on the phone earlier. Okay, do you suspect that? Yeah. Can you prove that? Sorry? Can you prove that? Could you prove it? What? Could you prove it? Well, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Do I need to prove it? Sir, is it still Wednesday Street, sir?
Yes.
I said, do I need to prove it? Like, of course you need to prove it. Any offence you're accusing to it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you ever so much. Your documents check out. Have a lovely day, constables, and you are dismissed. You're dismissed. Your services are not required and you are dismissed. Thank you. There you go, guys. Thank you very much. Big respect, guys. We do this to you. We do it for the community. And yeah, the back in car, a little bit butter, but now we're off home. Nice cup of Rousey Lee, and whatever else, guys, that I won't say on camera. God bless. Guys, yeah, listen to half the old job, what is
Bob of a stone you take is 16 bob a bag. Savoy! Cannonball! In you! March for your bags! Now when on veg day, I'd come down the back and I'd knock the door. And he'd be just shouted Bob of a stone, but if I run fast enough, they couldn't hear the price. So I knock on the door. Excuse me, missus, like any veg today? Potatoes, savoys, cannonballs, carrots. How much for half a stone, lad? 200 missus. Run back to the car, half a stone out it. Throw it in the fucking bag. Run back. 2 bucks out there and tell it in the shoe. Now one day out, he said to me, look, jump up on the car, we're going to grade out. And as I was jumping up the car past him, they rattled me with shoe.
Sing that song again. Okay. Chaz, I'm just about to leave if you're still there. I've just finished. I'm going to work some more on it tomorrow.
That's it, smashed it.
Come on up then, chicken. Hello Mary, how you doing? Come on, come. I'm just having a wee quick smoke before I go off. How's you and Scott?
Oh, getting there now, 26 seconds off the world's fastest. I've come from 48 seconds.
Come on up then, chicken. Come here. Come on.
Still there, Tom? No?
Aye, they're good, Mary. They're good. I started this one yesterday. I thought I would stream like this. Kind of. I've just done some work on it and I need to do some more tomorrow.
That's what you call on the edge.
I've not clear coated anything yet though. I need to do it and see how it looks.
Try it then.
But I did look at a wolf one. But it'd be like a couple of wolves in front of the moon, like on a mountain. Like a silhouette kind of thing. I think that'd be cool.
So what does keek mean? Does that mean freezer? What does that mean?
Keek means shite.
Actually, one chasing the top one.
Thanks, Mary. I think the snakes were the hardest part on that. Kind of trying to do the snake skinny. But then there is other bits.
I make it look easy, mate.
Yeah, Jelly tries, doesn't he? Jelly does his bit, I do my bit. Are you streaming? Well, tonight. What time it though, Mary? Because that's usually our morning. We're usually getting up when you're streaming. It's usually like 7 AM for us, kind of thing. Or just before that.
Right, let's do the shot.
The old column.
Like I said, there's still some stuff on it I want to do. Put me in tomorrow. Right, and I'll show you, Mary, how it started, the way it starts.
Oh.
Yeah, that was how it started. You start off with the stencil, you can just spray that on and then you add all the detail yourself. Oh, that's cool.
Not even something put off the glass. Oh.
Cheers, it's pretty cool, isn't it, Mary? I nearly gave up on it last night.
Scotland.
Thinking about the snakes, I was like, oh, snakes, man, and I thought, right, cover it, I'll need to try it. See how I got on it. Only one way to learn and I was doing it. Aye, I need to put in tomorrow because I need to put more text tomorrow as well.
I'm not really fast.
I might stream it again. Did you see the other skull as well, Mary?
Not really,
I know. Scott's seen it. Ooh. Better when the light's not on it, eh? Hashtag beginner. I had to change the needle in that earlier on and all, because the other night, when I was cleaning it, I kind of dropped it into the sink and the needle got a bit bent. So it was, I still worked with it, but it was just a pain in the bum. Ooh, Mary's smoking one with us. Cool. Skull. I'm actually enjoying doing skulls. I love the light and dark, the shading and stuff. I love how kind of just makes things come to life. Eh? As soon as you put that in, it gives it depth.
Two part,
Probably it's gone for that for you. Without wheels. It's got all new wheels and Swedish. Never the wash.
Oh, damn you, you dummy. Oh, damn you, you dummy. Aye, so once I've finished this one, I've got another skull there to do that I've not done yet. And then I'll maybe order the wolf one, but I think it's just going to be wolf silhouettes, like against a huge moon kind of thing. I think that's the way I'm going to go with the wolves. What is this, Paul McRae?
I'm sure about it. Duck rallies.
Duck rally. You can spray anything with them, with that acrylic. You can, people spray trainers and everything. Make yourself some custom sneakers, should I say. Drive it like it's kerfunked. Right, I'm going off ski. If I'm up in time in the morning, maybe I'll pop in and see you. See what's happening. Because there's a fair wee time difference between us lot, eh?
And that's where it's good this morning.
I know. Right, I'm out of here, guys. Take it easy.
See you later, guys.
Bye.